Hi everyone, Ed from Bobil Vans here, and welcome back to the workshop where I'm about to introduce you to the new version of our Air Hybrid. Now, I say new version, the constant evolution of this product really has been going on since we launched it about 3 years ago. We've always been making incremental changes, but this really is the first big redesign of the product. We wanted to achieve three things. Firstly, we wanted to support higher pump pressures because you guys have been telling us, especially if you have a larger van, that 20 psi is not quite enough. You want to go up to 30 or maybe even 40, so we do support higher pump pressures. We also wanted to stop the overpressure valve leaking out of the system when you heat water to a high temperature, which leaves a little puddle under your van. It's how a lot of the other products on the market do it, but we wanted to move away from that because it can look as though everything's broken when it's actually not. And the third thing we wanted to do is make it really easy to install. There were quite a few steps to the first one, lots of little fiddly bits and components. So we've simplified a lot of things, we've taken a lot of the complicated bits in-house and we actually do them here, which means for you guys, fitting this should be an absolute doddle. So what I'm going to do in this video is just show you the new parts, how it all goes together. I'll show you it fitted as if I was doing it on a bench, and then what we'll do is a series of videos installing the new product into various vehicles, because the really nice thing about the hybrid is that it's really versatile. Even if you've got your diesel heater on one side of the van, the hybrid can be on the other side of the van. All you need is extra tube to connect the two together. So, what do you get in the kit? A 10 litre pressurised water tank in 3 flavours. This is the DC version, the AC version, or the dual version, which has got both. We've got our brand new heat exchanger. So this is a new technology to Bobil Vans. It basically means that this heat exchanger can withstand well over 100 psi. So this is really the heart of our new higher pressure system. We've got our automated diverter, which has got this little motor on it that moves the flap back and forth. We've now got an expansion tank in the system, which is what stops the overpressure valve from dripping out when you're heating the water. It also means that as the water cools, it doesn't cause the pump to come back on again and repressurize the system to replace the water that's leaked out, which is really great. Same little circulation pump comes on this anti-vibration bracket just to keep this really quiet, so when this is in use you can barely even hear it. Large Jubilee clips for your ducting, fittings for your heat exchanger, small Jubilee clips for the hose, which comes in 3 different types. You've got 10mm hose, which is most of the system. You've got a little bit of 13mm hose, which is for the pump. Then there's a section clear. This goes on the overpressure valve, so if you want to drain it, you just drain it out through this hose out of the van. You've then got what we call the CPU, which is the central plumbing unit. This is what makes everything really straightforward to install, because everything just gets piped into this, and it's an absolute doddle. A few extra fittings, and then we have our smart controller, slave box, cable, accessories, all that stuff. We're not going to go into too much detail about the smart controller because there's a few different videos on that. We'll try and bring those up to date as and when. Cool, right, so I will put this together as if I was building it on the bench, the decision making process you have to go through, and then we'll see what we end up with. So the first thing we're going to do is take off these 2 plastic covers which just protect the tank during shipping. And we're going to put these 2 brass fittings on. They come with a washer, so you just pop the washer into the fitting like that, just push that down onto the front of the tank. So we tend to say just hand tight and then just a little nip up with a spanner. You really don't need to over tighten these because the washer is going to do the sealing. You don't need to really nip it up too much. So the next step is going to be to attach these plastic adapters onto the heat exchanger just using the 4 screws in the corner. Now one side just goes straight on, the other side you have to trap the duct sensor in between the plastic of the adapter and the metal of the heat exchanger. That's what detects the air temperature of the diesel heater, and it tells the water pump to come on. Now you can put this exchanger on its side, you can even put it upside down. So if you wanted to mount them like this, you can. If you wanted to mount it this way, you can. It's absolutely fine, even upside down. It really doesn't make any difference. You just rotate the adapter and then secure it using the feet. You then want to put on the little fittings that you've got. We send out 2 little elbows and 2 little barbs. So depending on how you wanted to lay this out, You can just put the straight fittings on. So for example, if you're mounting this on its side, you might think that that's going to be easier to come straight in. If you wanted to have this on the top, you might want to have these little elbows, but you just screw the elbows in, screw the elbows in, screw the barb fitting in, and that's it. Again, you really don't need to go too tight with these. Hand tight is absolutely fine. And again, same with that one, just hand tight. The washer really compresses and gives that a good seal. So that's the heat exchanger all ready to go. Okay, so now we're going to assemble our circulation pump assembly. So I've just unwrapped the cable. We'll get the stubby little bit of hose and we push that onto the inlet of the pump. That just goes straight on like that. Get one small Jubilee clip, just slide it over. Get the second one, slide that one over. Oh, just need to back this off a bit. That one over. And then on this Y piece, you'll see that these two are 10mm. This one's slightly bigger. So that one's going to go into this slightly larger hose. The other Jubilee clip can slide back over, and there we go. We can tighten these up. Now, we only want to tighten one of these up because we may need to just adjust the position of the Y once we know where it's all going to be assembled. So we'll just tighten that one. This one will just nip up, so it's just holding it roughly in position. There we go. And that is ready to go. The thing we wanted to show you in a bit more detail is our central plumbing unit. Essentially, it's a one-way valve and overpressure valve. This is where our cold water comes in. This is where the cold water joins the hot water loop, and this goes off to the cold inlet of the tank. This is the return from the circulation pump. This is our one-way valve, and then this is an expansion tank, so the water's got somewhere to go where it heats up. There's two little mounting screws, you'll see that's how it gets secured to the bench. So we use 12mm John Guest push fit fittings. This has got a little sealing washer inside, so our inlet is literally as easy as screwing this on. Our pipe then gets push fitted straight into this. It's generally a good idea to have an isolator valve as well in case you want to work on the system. So we'll chop that, get a little isolator valve, push that on, push this one on. There we go. So that's now ready to fit. So I've just roughly laid everything out now. You can see that I've actually turned the exchanger onto its side and I've just added the straight fittings. Diesel heater here, hot air into the exchanger, turns into hot water. The way the water is going to go, we're going to come into here, and this is going to run into our exchanger, and then from our exchanger we run back out into the tank. Then our hot water goes into our pump. It's then either drawn off to the hot coming out of this one, alternatively it comes down here and gets circulated back into our plumbing unit, and then that's what circulates the water through the exchanger and makes hot water. So what I'm going to do now is just add all the pipes, pipe everything up, and let's see how it goes. So that's all piped up. Took me about 3 or 4 minutes, and I've still got one biscuit left, so can't have been too bad. The one bit that we haven't sort of shown you is the outlet. So this is where the hot water is going to come out. Again, John Guest push fit 12mm fittings. Screw straight into that barb fitting. That just pops in there. Again, tighten this one up, and that is going to be our hot outlet. Straight to our 12mm pipe, and off we go. If you are using a higher pressure pump, it probably is worth using the pipe inserts in the red John Guest pipe, just because once the water gets hot, they can get quite flexible, and the last thing you want is something popping out and leaking all over your van. But there you go, that's all good. Water comes in, into the exchanger, into the tank, out of the tank, down into the pump, and then back round. Just one thing to add, which is our expansion tank. That's just a standard thread, and all we do, once this is secured, screw this down. This is set out of the factory for pumps up to 35 psi. If you've got a pump that's higher than that, you will need to pressurize this yourself. It's just a standard bike fitting on the top, so you can connect to that and repressurize that. It generally needs to be about 5 psi higher than your water pump, and you probably want to redo that every couple of years just to make sure that that's still keeping the pressure. And there you go, that is all ready to go. So all it needs to do now is pipe up the ducting if I was going to do it. So again, ducting onto here, onto the diesel heater. Electrically, this all just gets plugged straight into the slave board, so that goes straight into the slave board. A duct sensor goes straight into the slave board. That's the water tank temperature, straight into the slave board. This one is just positive and negative, straight into the slave board. Yeah, so hopefully you can see that that is much easier than it was before.